Everyone knows that there are hundreds, if not thousands, of scenes/moments that happen in the Naruto anime and that don't happen in the manga. Filler episodes are the most common ones that people are gonna point to, but there are also moments in canon episodes that are not present in the manga. This mostly happens because the studio needs to pad the runtime so that the anime wouldn't catch up to the manga when they were releasing it, and even though the majority of those added moments in the anime just tank the pacing of the series and make it worse for it, some moments that are added are actually pretty good, and there are hundreds if not thousands of examples of scenes and moments that were added in the anime. However, people don't really talk too much about the opposite here, and what I mean by that are scenes that were in the Naruto manga but were never in the Naruto anime, and I mean completely cut scenes from the anime. Yes, there are going to be several minor differences between the two mediums, like where a particular scene happens, when a particular scene happens, and other minor differences. Maybe a character changes the design, maybe an attack or a jutsu looks different in the anime, but the gist of the scene is still present. It's just delivered in a different fashion. And you're gonna find countless examples of small changes like that from the manga to the anime. However, I want to highlight in this video scenes that were literally cut from the anime and never really shown at all. Not shown in another way, not shown by another character in any shape or form. They're just not present in the anime, and because most people that are Naruto fans have only watched the anime, there's a high chance you've never seen any of those scenes before. And this is kind of interesting because it's not as usual for you to see glaring differences between the manga and the anime where content is simply not present in the anime even though it was present in the manga. So let's go through 13 of these moments/scenes that were in the manga and not in the anime. Starting off with the very first chapter actually. We don't see Team Kurenai, Team Asuma, we don't see Sasuke or even Sakura in the first chapter of the series in the manga. When we are in the academy and we see the academy students there, we just see some pretty generic ninjas that probably don't even have a name and they never appear again, which is kind of weird if you think about it, because why wouldn't they show Sakura, Sasuke, Shikamaru, and the others in the first chapter of the series if they are in the academy and Naruto was obviously their classmate? Well, it's more likely than not that Kishimoto simply didn't come up with those characters until later, especially the characters in Team Asuma and Team Kurenai. Those 6 characters are only introduced in the beginning of the Chunin exams in the manga. However, we see glimpses of them in chapter 1. Shikamaru chastises Naruto for using the sexy jutsu on Iruka and forcing everybody else to go and perform the transformation jutsu in front of Iruka again. It's even foreshadowed that Hinata has a crush on Naruto in episode 1, which is a good thing, and these scenes are simply not present in the manga. It's completely different. The other academy students are just very random ninjas that we never see again, and that's kind of interesting. We just see how Kishimoto was evolving his writing and developing the characters as we went along. Sasuke and Sakura are not introduced in chapter 1 either, they're only introduced in chapter 3. They're actually introduced after Konohamaru, and I guess you can argue this is not a scene that's not present in the anime but is in the manga, but it's such a stark difference between the two mediums that it's worth mentioning here. Moving on to number 2, and this is another scene from chapter 1, and this is not present at all in the anime in any shape or form. When Naruto infiltrates the Hokage's office to steal the Shadow Clone scroll, in the anime he just steals the scroll and there's nobody that really tries to stop him. It's just afterwards that Hiruzen realizes and sends ninjas after Naruto. However, in the manga, Naruto finds Hiruzen while he's stealing the scroll. Hiruzen kind of catches him red-handed and tells Naruto to stop. However, Naruto uses the sexy jutsu on Hiruzen and one-shots the Hokage. That's literally what happens. Naruto beats Hiruzen. The first fight he ever participates in the series is against a sitting Hokage and he beats him. And this is completely cut out of the anime. Now, a lot of people are going to say, oh, this is a gag fight. It's supposed to be funny because Hiruzen, he's pervy, man. He likes the sexy jutsu and he can't cope with it. But Naruto was literally stealing a scroll that contained several state secrets of the Leaf Village. It was very important for that not to fall in the wrong hands, and Hiruzen would try his best to stop that if he was capable of, and he couldn't stop Naruto because Naruto simply used the sexy jutsu to one-shot him. So if Hiruzen wasn't able to stop Naruto from that, because that was a serious thing, then yeah, Naruto literally beat the Hokage in his very first fight of the series, which is cut from the anime, which is kind of a shame because people would probably respect Naruto much more if that was kept in, even though it's, you know, funny fight, yada yada yada. Yet, well, he managed to beat the Hokage. Number 3, and this is a very cool moment that was cut off. It's a really fast moment. I mean, if you blink, you're gonna miss it. It's when Zabuza first throws his Executioner's Blade at Team Kakashi when they're escorting Tazuna to the Land of Waves. Before Zabuza even introduces himself, the first thing he does is to throw his sword, spinning it, and then the sword sticks into into a tree, but he kind of aimed for Team Kakashi there, and if they didn't duck, they would have all died. The scene that's cut off from the anime is that Sakura is the one who actually saves Naruto's life in that situation. She's the one in the manga, at least, that pushes Naruto into the ground so that he could avoid the sword. In the anime, Naruto just ducks, and that's it. He avoids the sword by himself. But in the manga, Sakura saves his life there, so she's not as useless as people like to say. Kind of a shame the anime never had much respect for Sakura. Number 4, when Jiraiya first shows the Rasengan to Naruto when he is essentially stomping that crook that was threatening Naruto after he stained his jacket. In the manga, when Jiraiya stomps him with the Rasengan, he actually steals the guy's wallet. And I guess you can say there's a version of that scene in the anime, because in the anime, the guy just gives his wallet to Jiraiya because he's afraid of Jiraiya, but it's a very different vibe that you get. It's a much more sneaky thing that Jiraiya does. It's not the most morally correct thing to do. Yeah, the guy was being a jerk, but stealing is still a crime, and yet Jiraiya just gets away with it. It's a different vibe that you get from the character, and I get this was quote-unquote censored because, oh, Jiraiya's supposed to be a role model, not supposed to steal, but Jiraiya is not a very good role model for little kids because he likes to peep on girls in hot springs. I guess Japanese society considers stealing a far worse offense than spying on naked ladies. Well, whatever, it's just a very different vibe that you get from both scenes in the anime and in the manga. Number 5, when Naruto returns to the Leaf Village after the search for Tsunade arc, there's a scene where Naruto and Shikamaru are catching up. They're talking about the new Hokage and whatnot. Then Shikamaru mentions a new jutsu his dad taught him, and then Naruto's like, oh, Shikamaru, I learned a new jutsu as well. I can't wait to show you. Referring to the Rasengan, which he just learned in the previous arc. But after he says that, Jiraiya literally punches Naruto in the head and says that a shinobi doesn't share and show off his jutsus with anyone. Which makes sense, right? You don't want people to know about your techniques. The element of surprise is one of the most important things in a battle, so Jiraiya is actually teaching Naruto something important here. But this scene is cut in the anime because we never see Jiraiya punching Naruto in the head, at least not in that situation. Another one of those times where they make Jiraiya's character a little bit morally aligned, let's put it that way, not punching kids, even though everybody punches Naruto left and right, even though he's a kid in part 1. Number 6, Shikamaru becomes a smoker. Now, if you're an anime only, this may seem surprising, but then again, there's a high chance you've seen images of Shikamaru smoking online, even though you didn't read the manga, because it's a very famous panel where he starts to smoke. And yeah, I kind of understand why this part would be censored, because smoking, you know, not a very good example for you to give to little kids that are watching Naruto. And Shikamaru is a 16-year-old too, and he starts to smoke there, and yeah, I guess it's not the best thing to do. And this is kind of a weird thing because it's a diabolical sin for an underage character to drink in a manga/anime. Japanese society treats that very seriously, but smoking seems to be okay if you're underage. Like, every time characters are celebrating in a manga or an anime and they're underage and they're drinking something, there's always like something indicating, oh, this is not alcohol, by the way, it's just like soda or whatever. But Shikamaru smoking, I guess, is fine. But yeah, I understand the censorship behind it, and the scene where Shikamaru begins to smoke in the manga is actually really cool. It's right after Asuma's death. He starts to smoke Asuma's cigarette, and then he says the line, oh, I hate smoke because it makes me cry, you know, my eyes water, but obviously that was because he was crying because of Asuma. It's such a cool scene, and yeah, we do get that scene in the anime, but it's just smoke coming from Asuma's cigarette that was on Asuma's mouth, not on Shikamaru's. It's a very different vibe as well, and yeah, I guess you can say the scene is still there, it's just censored. The difference between Shikamaru smoking and not smoking is so great that I think it's worth mentioning it here. Number 7, also relating to Shikamaru and smoking, when Shikamaru explodes Hidan into 10,000 pieces after completely stomping the guy in a fight. In the anime, he tosses Asuma's lighter to lit up all those paper bombs and explode Hidan. In the manga, however, he tosses his cigarette, which he starts to smoke in the middle of the fight. And I have to say, it kind of hits way harder with a cigarette. Number 8 is gonna be Konohamaru's reverse sexy jutsu. So there's a scene where Konohamaru is goofing off using the sexy jutsu, Sakura gets pissed, and then after Sakura gets pissed, Konohamaru tries to pull one on Sakura, and then he uses a reverse sexy jutsu, using a shadow clone to transform himself and the clone into Sasuke and Sai naked, and then he starts to perform intimacy on himself in front of Sakura in broad daylight, and Sakura loves that, and I understand why that scene was cut from the anime. Number 9, Suigetsu and Sasuke actually visit Zabuza and Haku's graves, and that's where Suigetsu gets the Executioner's Blade from. The sword was still pierced on the grave just like Kakashi left in the end of the Land of Waves arc. In the anime, they don't get the sword from the grave at all. There's this entire side quest where Suigetsu and Sasuke have to get the blade from a mafia lord, whatever, that got the blade, which honestly kind of makes sense because I don't see why nobody would steal the executioner's blade from Zabuza's grave. It's not as though somebody is guarding it. Even the Mist Village itself would probably have a lot of investment into that blade and would send somebody to retrieve it once they learn about its location, but also it's reasonable to assume that a random mafia guy would get a hold of the sword if he knew there was a powerful sword just laying around in a grave. Then again, it's also reasonable to assume that the Mist Village would send some Ambu hunters to go and retrieve it from the mafia lord. But yeah, I can kind of get behind that change, even though it tanks the pacing completely when you go through that stupid side quest in the anime where Sasuke and Suigetsu have to retrieve the sword. It is kind of weird that the sword isn't stolen after 4 years or so sitting there. But it's also really nice to see the grave again in the manga, and that's something we don't see. It's pretty much the exact same shot we get at the end of the Land of Waves arc. It's very emotional. So I would still pick the manga version. Number 10. Right after Madara tosses a Bijudama at the headquarters of the Ninja Alliance during the war, Shikaku says, yeah, it's coming our way. We're done for. We're gonna die anyways, but let's come up with a final strategy to give the Alliance so that we can win. But in between the moment they realize the Bijudama is coming their way until Shikaku says, let's come up with a final strategy, there's a scene that was cut. And it's a scene of a background Sand Village ninja breaking down in desperation as he realizes he is going to die. He says, oh, we have to do something. We have to get out of here. I don't want to die, yada, yada, yada. And then another random Mist ninja says, we're ninjas. We're here fighting in the war, and if you didn't expect to die just because you were in the headquarters, I'm sorry, but we're fighting just like the people are in the battlefield. So that based Mist ninja just tells the Sand ninja to shut up so that they can deliver the final strategy. And this scene was completely cut from the anime. I guess they wanted to shove 3 manga chapters in that one anime episode, so they had to cut a few scenes here and there, such as this dialogue scene, because you're gonna see this Naruto episode here where Neji dies. There's a lot of things that are cut from it that are in the manga and simply are not present in the anime. And this debate slash argument that the Sand Ninja has with a Mist Ninja is one of them. And it's kind of interesting because it's a natural reaction from somebody that realizes, okay, I'm gonna die. Let me try and do something about it to have, even though it's pretty much hopeless. And yeah, Ao somehow survived a Bijudama blast from the 10 tails. I'm so glad Boruto's not canon, by the way. Moving on to number 11. In that same Naruto episode, and just one chapter after the discussion between the Mist and Sand Ninjas, there's another quick dialogue scene that's cut. When Hinata, Hiyashi, and Neji are using their rotation to counter the 10 tails' big tails, some Cloud Ninjas are standing from behind. They're saying, oh wow, this is the Hyuga palm rotation, whatever. It gave us a lot of trouble in the last war. Some Hyuga glazing from Cloud Ninjas, even though the Hyugas are all fodder, but still, it's not in the anime. And I kind of get why it's not in the anime, because the scene that happens after that just makes the Hyugas seem like a joke when Neji dies to a twig. So having the Cloud Ninjas hyping them up for Neji to die in the most pathetic way possible is kind of, pointless. Number 12. In that same chapter, when the 10 tail starts to go ballistic and unleashes that wood-style barrage against the entire alliance, Sakura lifted an entire piece of the ground with her bare hands to block the wood-style in the anime. However, in the manga, Kakashi saves her by essentially grabbing her and taking her out of the way of the wood-style, which is a difference that I can get behind. Sakura seems much more competent and cooler when she does that herself, and it's one of the rare situations where the anime was more respectful towards Sakura than the manga. And in that very same scene, there's also a small panel in the manga showing some ninjas from the Leaf Village using fire style to block the wood style barrage, but it doesn't appear in the anime, but it's very quick, so it doesn't really matter that much. Number 13, and this is without the shadow of a doubt, and by a long distance, the worst case of something getting cut from the anime that was clearly shown in the manga, which is the entire final chapter of the Naruto series. Chapter 700 is not present in the Naruto anime. Just think about this for a second. What would you say if an anime is adapting a manga and they simply do not adapt the final chapter of the series? It sounds absurd, outrageous, stupid, and the Naruto anime did that. It's absolutely baffling. Now, if you don't know, the final Naruto chapter, first of all, it's pretty bad, but it's a time skip chapter. They do the time skip about 15 years after the war arc or so. And we see the characters, they're all adults now. We see the children of the characters, unfortunately. And we see that the 5 Kage are gathering in the Leaf Village for the 5 Kage Summit, because now this is a normal thing that happens periodically in the Naruto world after the 4th Great Ninja War and after the 5 great nations became friends. And this is the chapter that we see Naruto as the Hokage. Something that we do not see in in the Naruto anime. You know, the first objective the main character had in the series was to become the Hokage, and we don't see that realized in the series itself. We have to watch the worst sequel of all time and the worst series of all time to see Naruto being the Hokage. We don't see Naruto's face carved in Mount Konoha in the anime, because obviously we can't see that if he's not the Hokage yet, and everything about the final chapter of the Naruto series is not present in the anime, because let's be real here, it's essentially a bait for you to watch Boruto. The only reason why they didn't show Naruto becoming the Hokage in the Naruto series was so that you were forced to watch the worst series of all time. And yeah, I guess that worked for a few weeks when Boruto was coming out, but Boruto doesn't even have 5% of the audience Naruto used to have back in the day when it was coming out, both the anime and the manga, so it clearly didn't work out. And let's be real here, if they were confident whatsoever in their writing, they wouldn't have to bait the audience so hard to go watch Boruto. Imagine if when the One Piece anime ends, which is probably gonna be in the 25th century, they don't show the adaptation of Luffy becoming the king of the pirates, but they leave that for the sequel of One Piece, Two Piece, which is the worst sequel ever made ever since the conception of Boruto. Imagine if they don't show Aang mastering the four elements in the Avatar series, and they have to show it in Korra for some reason, because we have to bait the audience into watching the worst series of all time. I guess the silver lining for them not adapting the final chapter of the Naruto manga into the anime was so that Boruto, the character, is never present in the Naruto anime, which is a good thing. And as I said before, chapter 700 is pretty damn garbage. Chapter 699 actually had the perfect ending for the series. You just had to make Naruto the Hokage before that happened for the series to be complete, and also cut Kaguya and the Otsutsukis entirely, and then Naruto would have been a 10 out of 10 manga. But no, let's introduce Kaguya because Boruto needs to have some villains, am I right? And ruin the entire franchise in the process. I don't think you can tell I hate the ending of Naruto, can you? Tell me in the comments if I missed any important Naruto scenes that are in the manga and not in the anime. Also, watch this other cool Naruto video right here. Subscribe if you haven't already, and like the video because it really helps me with the YouTube algorithm engagement and all that, so please do. And thank you so much for watching, guys.